Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my special episode today of ZodWriter live from the couch. I appreciate you guys joining me. This was something quick I decided to throw together and do a little live stream. I had a little bit of free time this morning, so I decided to jump on and give my thoughts on this glorious announcement that we just got, that Zack Snyder has signed an exclusive, again, let's say it a third time, exclusive first look deal with Netflix. And I'm going to explain to everybody in the industry, everybody here, what that really means, what the implications are moving forward for Zack Snyder, what this means for us, what this means for the Snyderverse, and to answer some questions about why I'm approaching it the way that I am and why I feel the way that I do. And again, this is a celebratory morning for me. It is 10 o'clock in the morning here where I am. I'm in Illinois, and I've literally cracked open a beer in celebration of this. Now, I didn't really have a chance yesterday to do a live stream devoted to this. I was busy and had some other things going on. I've made some comments and some in the chats and stuff about it, and kind of talked about it. Gave a little bit of my 2 cents on Belle Reeve's stream yesterday in the chats. And I don't know, some of you may have seen me. I made some comments in Dawson's stream about it yesterday too. But this is my opportunity to really come out and talk to you guys and express how I feel about it all and why I feel like this is a good thing. It's not only a good thing, it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's almost like all these people, like Warner Brothers was playing checkers with Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder was playing chess with Warner Brothers. People don't realize the magnitude and the beauty of this deal that Zack Snyder, Zack and Deborah and Stone Quarry signed with Netflix. This is literally the greatest thing. If you are a fan of Zack Snyder's work, this is the greatest thing that you could hope for. This is like the most, it's like a gift. It's like a gift from the heavens. All of those people that kept calling us and saying we were in the Snyder cult and all this, that this is a cult, that this is no, it's not a cult. We're just a group of fans that love Zack Snyder's work. We're just a group of fans that want to see Zack Snyder prosper without having to deal with the nonsense and the rigmarole that goes with the ridiculous, clicks in the fandom and things that have fractured the Snyderverse movement from the get-go. I mean, because I'm going to be honest, for me, the Snyder Cut movement, back in the day when you had people, you had Fiona, you had all the good people back in the day, Will Rollins, Mr. West Ashley, myself, lots of great people that were there from the beginning, that actually cared and were there for Zack Snyder and were there for the movement and were there for the right reasons. When the Release the Snyder Cut movement began, it had nothing to do with clout chasing. It had nothing to do with, Zack Cess or Zack Crack, as Mr. West Ashley would call it. It had nothing to do with any of that. It was all pure. It was all out of the love for Zack Snyder and his work and what Zack what Zack brought to the table, what Zack was, trying to do. I'm so excited I can't even talk. We wanted to bring out the Snyder Cut for everybody to see. That was the driving force. That was the goal. It was about the Snyderverse. It was but it was not really the Snyderverse per se. It was more about just getting the cut out, and it extended to Americans for Suicide Prevention and charity work and all sorts of things. It became this huge huge, wonderful, wonderful thing. And I for one couldn't be happier about what we've accomplished as a group. I think the Release the Snyder Cut movement was beautiful. It achieved everything, everything it needed to achieve. We got the cut, and now we have 3 beautiful Zack Snyder DC movies to enjoy till the end of time. Okay, we have Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition, and now Zack Snyder's Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League Justice is Gray Edition. And as a Zack Snyder fan, and as a DC Comics fan, as a DC film fan, I'm completely fine with that. I'm completely okay with that. That is beautiful. That's more than we ever thought we would get. As my friend Johnny Alpha is so fond of saying, you guys got a very, very, very big win. You guys came out and got something that nobody, including Zack Snyder himself, thought you were going to be able to do. You pulled it off. You got the Snyder Cut. That in and of itself was like the unicorn and seemed like an impossible task to happen. So for that, I will always be grateful. I will always be grateful for my time in the Snyder Cut movement and all the friendships and even the people that don't talk to me, that have pretty much, disowned me because of my associations with certain people in the fandom. Even those people, I'll always respect them for for what we did in Release the Snyder Cut, because Release the Snyder Cut was big. Release the Snyder Cut was something that essentially we all came together when it mattered. We came together when we needed to come together to get the point across, to make it economically viable, okay, at the time, for this movie to come out. And again, like I said, I will forever be grateful to everybody, because I absolutely love these movies. They're wonderful, and it's great to have them. So here's the thing, all right? And don't worry, I'm gonna get to all your chats. I see you guys in here, putting out all kind, questions and things and saying your hellos and stuff. I'm just glad to have all of you here. According to my live meter, there's about 15 of you in here right now, and that's cool. I'm happy that you guys decided to join me this morning. I'm gonna say some controversial things, and there's gonna be some feelings hurt this morning, because I really feel like it needs to be said, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. People need to realize that this isn't just about Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers, okay? This is about Zack Snyder's career as a whole. This is about Zack Snyder doing what's best for him. This is about Zack Snyder moving on from the toxic elements within the Snyderverse fandom. It's about Zack Snyder coming into his own and doing, what he does best as a filmmaker, and providing us with continued entertainment and being able to tell the stories that Zack himself wants to tell. So the title of my particular event for today was Live from the Couch. Zack and Snyder are finally free from Nerd Queens, TPZ, and WB. And there's a reason why I said those 3 specific entities. That's right. I consider those 3 to be 3 specific entities that, now that this deal has been signed, now that Zack has moved over to Netflix, he's free of all of this. He's free of all of this stuff. The toxic side of the fandom, the bullies of the Snyder Cut fandom, known as TPZ, have finally, once and for all, definitively been neutralized and have been basically discarded the way that they should have been a long time ago. Because now that Zack is no longer under the gun of Warner Brothers, and he's not going to be making, and because he's not working for Warner Brothers, he's not going to be making any of these movies anytime soon. So he's not going to have Mick D of TPZ whispering in his ear. He's not going to have, the nerd queens jumping down his throat for clout like they always do. All of this is a good thing. It's a positive thing. And everybody in the Snyderverse fandom should be happy for Zack and should be happy that Zack is now free to do what he wants to do as a filmmaker. And I will get more into this as we go through, but now I want to get to, just quickly, I want to get to your chats because you guys are here. And those who watch my streams know that I like to read. This is one of the reasons why my streams go as long as they do, because I like to read everybody's comments if I can, because I'm all about, viewer participation. Resident Justice, what's up, RJ? He says, hey, Zod, good morning. It's good to see you, RJ. I'm glad you're here. He says, why, when you say they're free from the nerd queens and TPZ, what do you mean? What is TPZ? That's a good question, RJ. And the fact that you actually have to ask who TPZ is kind of makes my point for me. TPZ really isn't anyone. TPZ is a group of people that just happened to be at the right place at the right time and had a group of people that like had a beer or a drink or a Jamba Juice or something in a bar or a pub or something with Zack Snyder one day, and they became friends with Zack. And because they're fans of Zack, they just happened to, be at the right place at the right time. And they started communicating with Zack, and all of a sudden they became the conduit between Zack Snyder and all of the other fan groups in the Snyder Cut movement. They became like this almost like de facto spokespeople for Zack Snyder. So the rule of thumb kind of is now, if you want to talk to Zack Snyder, you either get in touch with TPZ or you get in touch with the Nerd Queens, and they can get you in touch with Zack Snyder. It's kind of like they got it like that. That's their thing. They're kind of but the problem is, RJ, the big issue with TPZ is that they kind of became bigger than what they were. Well, bigger than what they were in their minds. Okay, they think because they have this connection to Zack and Deborah, that gives them free reign to bully everybody else and to push everybody else to the side that they don't like. And they basically have made it impossible for other people who were trying to, speak the truth about the movement, trying to say what's really going on. They made it impossible and basically have gone out of their way to silence just about everybody that they don't like or they don't agree with. You say one thing negative about the Nerd Queens and TPZ and you're blacklisted. They treat you like you're yesterday's dirt. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely despicable. Some of the things that they did behind the scenes, I don't even want to talk about here because it's absolutely reprehensible. But they are essentially that conduit between Zack Snyder and the fans. And it's unfortunate because just because you're a conduit between Zack Snyder and the fans doesn't mean that you have the right to treat people the way that you did. And this is one of those things that I'm happy that we're able to talk about all this now. We're able to bring it out because, number one, Zack Snyder is free. He's doing his own thing now. He's going over to Netflix. He's got an exclusive deal. And again, this exclusive deal, what people don't realize is Zack had an exclusive deal just like this with Warner Brothers for years. And Zack was very loyal to Warner Brothers. Zack stayed with Warner Brothers. He didn't do any other films with WB. Okay? He with any other studio, just WB. And that's what Zack is. He's all about the loyalty. So when he went over now that he's over at Netflix, he's giving loyalty to Netflix in the same way that he gave it to WB. And Netflix loves Zack Snyder. They love working with him. They care about him. They're going to give him the freedom, the creative freedom to do what he wants to do. And therefore, he's not going to have any reason to go back to Warner Brothers and their toxic work environment to finish the Snyderverse. And I'm also going to say that from my perspective, unless Netflix somehow acquires DC Films from Discovery, Warner Brothers, and who knows, Zaslav may consider it at some point, but unless they actually acquire DC, there won't be anything else from the Snyderverse. That's the reality, because Zack is not going to leave somewhere where he's being treated like a king and being given carte blanche to do the kinds of stuff he wants. You know, the creative freedom that James Gunn was given for his Suicide Squad movie that everybody is celebrating him for, right? Everybody's defending him, calling me a nutcase because I'm not defending James Gunn. But here's the thing. It's the same deal for Zack over at Netflix. Netflix is giving Zack Snyder the James Gunn treatment. He can go over to Netflix. He can make whatever he wants. Why would he want to go back to Warner Brothers? Why? For what? Why would you want to put yourself back in that situation? Especially if all these buffoon DC movies like The Flash and The Batman with Robert Pattinson and the aforementioned James Gunn Suicide Squad are successful movies. If those are successful movies, Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada are still going to be there after the merger. They're going to keep their jobs. Why would Zack Snyder want to go back to that environment and have to deal with all the nonsense in this ridiculous Snyderverse fandom? You know, listening to TPZ drone on about these people and those people. I mean, come on. If you ask me, the best thing for Zack Snyder and his mental health and his sanity as a filmmaker is this merger. You know, this merger that's happening over at Warner Brothers, good, they can do their thing. But this first look deal that he got with Netflix is the best thing ever. It's the best thing that could have happened. And Kit, good to see you, man. He says, hello, fellas. And Bat Dan 530, my good friend, says, good morning, Mr. Writer. Good morning. Mr. West Ashley, what's up, brother? He says, hola, amigos. And I got my good friend Katsuka92 in the chat. He says, woo! And Kit says, I'm finally here for the live ZodWriter experience. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, you know what? I didn't even know. I didn't know I was gonna do this morning, but I just felt really good coming off of this news. Because I think this is the greatest thing in the world for Zack Snyder. And I know I'm repeating that a lot, but I mean, it can't be understated. It's fantastic. It's the greatest news. I mean, I keep thinking about what kind of projects Zack is going to bring us. I mean, that's just the stuff that was just announced is nothing compared to the kind of stuff he's going to bring out. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to be heaven for those of us that are truly fans of Zack Snyder. Those of us who are truly here for Zack are going to be celebratory and are going to be supportive of Zack. You've got people putting out tweets talking about let's see here. You got people putting out tweets like this where they say, if you think Zack's news with Netflix is the end of his Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyderverse, then you are being short-sighted. All things are possible. We just need to maintain our same passion and continue to make sure everyone in power knows we want to restore the Snyderverse. Yeah, we want to restore the Snyderverse. Yeah, it's easy to say that, right? It's easy to say that, but some of these same people, okay, that are tweeting now about, oh, it's still possible to restore the Snyderverse. Some of these same people that are saying that are the same people who supported Wonder Woman 84. The same people who supported Birds of Prey, the same people who told us we've got to watch all of the DC movies. We've got to watch them all if we want, if we want the Snyderverse to continue. We have to watch all of these movies. We have to support all of these movies to come out, regardless of if Zack Snyder is involved or not. Give me a break. It's time to face reality. And it's time to be happy for your good friend, Zack Snyder. Some of you over there on that side who have had lots and lots of Zoom calls with Zack Snyder. It's time for you to be happy. It's time for you to congratulate your friend, quote unquote, friend, and allow him to be a filmmaker again. And stop trying to shackle him to a toxic work environment so that you can continue to promote your agendas and promote your brands through the man's work. That's over with. Nobody cares. Zack is moving on, and the rest of us should be too. And I'm not saying it's impossible for the Snyderverse to come back, but I just outlined to you quite simply what would need to happen for the Snyderverse to be restored. And that would be that DC Films is somehow acquired by Netflix. If that doesn't happen, you're not going to get a Snyderverse. So I wouldn't hold my breath, and I wouldn't sit there and keep trying to act like you know something that the rest of us don't. Because here's the reality. A lot of people were predicting stuff. A lot of people were saying all kinds of nonsense about, oh, the Snyderverse is going to be restored. Yep. It's coming. How long now have we been hearing that the Snyderverse is going to be restored? How long now have we been hearing all this stuff about, oh yeah, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that? No. If you have a job that you're working at where you're constantly getting bullied every single day, are you gonna be looking forward to going back to that job? Are you gonna be actually, excited to go back and work for those same people who literally screw you and make your life miserable on a regular basis? I mean, what kind of human beings are you? Be happy that Zack Snyder is finally being able to catch his breath. Be happy for Deborah Snyder. Be happy for Stone Quarry. I just don't get it. It's like nobody can think about this logically, and nobody can say what needs to be said, which is simply this: we have to allow Zack Snyder to be a filmmaker again. We have to allow Zack Snyder to have his shackles removed and to be able to do what's best for him as a filmmaker, as well as what's best for him as a human being. Rushnan says, what's up, Rushnan? Good to see you as always. My good friend Eddie, who's often misunderstood, makes a lot of great points when he goes on his videos and does stuff. A lot of his stuff is satirical, but he is 100% awesome. What's up, Eddie? Good to see you, bro. Katsuka says the fractured but whole. I don't know, Katsuka. I think it's time. I think it's time people understand again. And I'm not saying that it can't happen. I mean, because stranger things, like the Netflix show, stranger things have happened in the industry lately. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. The scenario that I gave, where Netflix could acquire DC Films. That's not a complete impossibility, but the reality is that the likelihood of that is not very good unless okay, I'll give you an example if you want me to. Like say these movies fail. Let's say that the Suicide Squad is an absolute bomb. Regardless if you think like me that the movie is going to be a turd and shouldn't exist in the first place. Let's say that this movie fails, right? And then you have, the Flash movie that comes out and it fails. And then you have Robert Pattinson's Batman movie, and that doesn't fail, but that doesn't go over as big as everybody hoped it would. In those scenarios, And I'm not, and notice how I didn't mention Black Adam. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't mention Black Adam. I believe that The Rock's Black Adam movie is in the Snyderverse. And it may not be in the Snyderverse as far as WB is concerned, but I believe that it's in the Snyderverse as far as The Rock is concerned. I think there's going to be some connective tissue in that movie between, that is going to tie into Zack Snyder's Justice League. I truly believe that, but that doesn't mean anything. You see, that all that means is that you're going to have another example of a movie that's going to be successful because it has ties to the Snyderverse. And make no mistake, I think DC right now is trash. And the only hope that they have moving forward is that this Black Adam movie is successful and that it can get people on board. I don't think that any of their other movies, I'm not excited for any of their other films. And again, everybody that is, in one breath saying restore the Snyderverse, but then jumping on the bandwagon for James Gunn's Suicide Squad, you're part of the problem. I'm sorry to say it, but you're part of the problem. You can't ask for the Snyderverse and then at the same time accept everything that Walter Hamada and Toby Emmerich is throwing at you. How do you figure that that's going to work, especially knowing what they did to Zack Snyder, what they've been continued to do to Zack Snyder throughout the release campaign for the Snyder Cut? I mean, we won't even get into how they're treating David Ayer. That's another story altogether. But yeah, fractured. I don't know. I feel more like it's broken, especially because you can't even get people in the fandom to agree to fully embrace, restore the Snyderverse and not support these other films. You can't even get people to agree on that. The reason why Release the Snyder Cut worked is because everybody was united about that. That was a singular goal, regardless of what side you were on and who you agreed with or who you disagreed with. If you were still hashtagging Release the Snyder Cut, you were still talking about Release the Snyder Cut on every YouTube video, every live stream, every Twitter post. There's a difference between what was going on there and what's going on here now with Restore the Snyderverse. Some of the great people, including Fiona, who got pushed out of the Snyderverse movement by the likes of TPZ. The reality is, okay, when you think about it, a lot of these good people that were there at the top who were instrumental in the Release the Snyder Cut campaign being a success are not here now, are not a part of the Restore the Snyderverse movement because of all of this nonsense, because of all of this clout chasing and all these people making it about me, and my 15 minutes of fame and what I'm going to do and how it's going to impact my brand. That's the reason. That's one of the reasons why you just don't have the same kind of fight that you had with Release the Snyder Cut. So the only way it's going to happen, again, I've said it a bunch of times already, is if Netflix acquires DC. It's not impossible, but I would say that it's unlikely. And that's just, my 2 cents on that. And at this point, like I said, even as a DC fan, I could care less because I understand what went on behind the scenes. I understand how the studio did Zack and a bunch of other DC directors dirty. WB doesn't deserve to have a property like DC under their umbrella. And they don't deserve to have any top tier filmmakers like Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder and Denis Villeneuve. They don't deserve to have any of these filmmakers. All of these top tier filmmakers should be off doing other projects. And that's just a great thing. They should be off doing other projects with studios that appreciate them. It would be so ironic if Netflix ends up acquiring all of them. I would love to see Christopher Nolan jump over to Netflix too. Might as well, because WB is like the Titanic right now. I mean, even with the merger, I'm sorry, I don't really think that Zaslav's going to be able to salvage WB. WB is a mess. And I have to be honest and be realistic when I say I think Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada are going to figure out a way to weasel, and maintain their jobs. I just don't have any faith that company is going to do the right thing. And Chubby Teddy Master, what's up, man? Says, yeah, Zod, early bird gets the worm. Yeah, thank you for being here, man. Time to go back to the basics and the hashtag release the air cut on August 5th. Yeah, you could do that, sure. But I just don't think that they care right now. Again, release the air cut. Okay, but if they were going to release the air cut, the best time to release the air cut would have been before James Gunn's movie came out. Because you have all this hype surrounding James Gunn's Suicide Squad, whether you care about it or you don't, there's still hype surrounding it. So what better way to cash in on that hype than to release the air cut? I mean, how can you be comfortable with anything that DC is doing moving forward, knowing that they never finish what they start, B, all they do is screw over filmmakers, unless you're James Gunn. I don't get it. I don't get it, guys. I just don't understand it. I'm like tired of James Gunn. I'm tired of all these people. I'm tired of all these people being beholden to him, but then trying to claim that they're part of the Snyderverse movement. If you're part of the Snyderverse movement, if you're really hardcore part of the Snyderverse movement, then why are you supporting James Gunn's Suicide Squad? That's the question. Why? Why are you supporting that? Especially because you know where it's coming from. You know who greenlit it, and you know why it exists. It's another diversion to get you to forget about the Snyderverse. But it's like it's these same people that are now trying to cry because they realize that their brands are in jeopardy now because Zack Snyder is going to be with Netflix, so he's not going to be doing DC stuff. The chance of that is going to be slim. So now it's like, oh, well, no, there's still a chance. You just have to keep pushing. You just have to keep, keep pushing like the way y'all pushed everybody out. Keep pushing like the way you got rid of all the good people. Can we talk about that? I mean, what, you got rid of all these people that did all kinds of great things for the movement, and now you're sitting here now because being contradictory because Zack signed this deal. I love that Zack signed this deal because it not only gets Zack Snyder away from Warner Brothers, it gets Zack Snyder away from you toxic people. It gets Zack away from you toxic individuals. And you know who you are, and you know who I'm talking about. So that to me is bigger, even bigger than the whole thing with WB. Because y'all kind of became your own little mini version of WB with all your politics and favoritism, and we like these people over here, but we don't like these people over here. I can't understand it. It's like, oh, and it's like every time somebody, anytime somebody criticizes you, they're blacklisted or pushed out. I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm just happy. I'm just happy this finally happened, because first and foremost, this is the best thing that could have happened for Zack Snyder. And Chubby Teddy Master Productions says it was all pure, the best way to describe the early days. Yeah, the early days were pure. The early days were pure because it was before all this political nonsense. It was before it became about, Zack Snyder's our friend. It was before that. And I'm a firm believer that cast members of the movies and the directors and the creatives should distance themselves from the freaking fans, because a good portion of the fans are morons and should not be anywhere near the creatives. I'm sorry. This movement has proven that, has shown that when you mix creatives with certain elements, fringe elements of the fan base, you get all kinds of nonsense. You get a powder keg of drama that never lets up. But Zack finally put a stop to it. And how did Zack put a stop to it? By signing an exclusive first look deal with Netflix. He, in the back of his mind, he's got to be thinking, oh, I'm dodging a bullet here. Because Zack is too kind of a guy to come out and say it. Zack is too kind of a guy to come out and say, you guys are kind of weird. But he can't say that to them because they're fans, right? I mean, he's not going to invite them over to barbecues at his house, is he? I mean, what is Zack going to do? What do you want from the man? I'm just like, what? I mean, what anointed you guys to be the conduit between Zack and the fan base? Because you were lucky enough to sit down and have a drink with him? I mean, I would say that anybody, or a drink or coffee, whatever y'all had, I don't know. Somebody will criticize me and say, well, Zod, you said we sat down and had a drink with Zack Snyder. We didn't have a drink with Zack Snyder. We were at a coffee shop and Zack Snyder came into the coffee shop and we had a conversation. Whatever. Yo, what's up, Parademon44? Good to see you, man. Oh my God, good to see you in the chat. And Chubby Teddy Master saying good morning to everybody. Oh my Diaz, what's up, Eddie? He says everyone is too tired to keep up with the Snyderverse stuff. To be honest, it seems like a waste of energy now. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, my God, just be thankful that we got everything that we got. Be thankful that we got the Snyder Cut. Be thankful that we have BVS Ultimate Edition. Be thankful that we have Man of Steel. And be thankful that Zack Snyder is going to give us an epic sci-fi movie, Rebel Moon. He's going to give us all kinds of great Army of the Dead stuff, animes, and other movies. And now this exclusive deal seals it. It's almost like the big vault in Army of the Dead. That's where the Snyderverse is at, and only Netflix are the only ones who could be the safe cracker for the Snyderverse now. Netflix is going to have to somehow acquire DC in order for the Snyderverse to continue. Stop deluding yourselves. If Netflix does not acquire DC, there will not be a Snyderverse. I'm telling you that now. There will not be any more. How? Who's going to have the time? And why would Zack, not stick with Netflix and take time away from working on projects at Netflix where Netflix actually cares about him and lets him do the stuff he wants to go work with those idiot morons over at WB? Darkstar. Hi, Zod. Hi, Darkstar. Good to see you. It looks like freaking the chat has kind of torpedoed. I'm trying to catch up here because StreamYard did what it normally does, which is try to catch up. But here we go. Let's see. Chubby Teddy Master says you have a great outlook on all this, John. I'm just trying to speak it from the truth. I'm trying to speak it from the bottom of my heart at this point. But my gut feeling is telling me that the only way the Snyderverse happens now is if DC is acquired by Netflix. That's the only way. And the chances of happening are not impossible, but are very remote. And you just have to be realistic about it. You got a better. I think a lot of us would have a better chance of winning the Powerball. To quote to quote Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. We'd have a better chance of winning the Powerball than Netflix acquiring DC at this point. So I'm not saying that won't happen. I'm not saying that that's impossible for it to happen, but I'm saying that the chances are very, 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 very limited. And Prime, the NBA Live Godfather, says, yo, Zod, yo, Prime. He says, actual factuals is all that matters, Zod. Arkham Gaming, hi, Zod. And Kid says, yes, hurt them feelings. It's the time to choose violence. Hell yeah. I'm just telling it like it is, man. I really am sick and tired of some people flexing their weight and flexing their muscle when at the end of the day, they're nothing but fans, just like the rest of us are. What qualifies them? What makes them better than any of the rest of us? Just because some of them were lucky enough to talk to Zack Snyder? I mean, give me a break. I never got into this to talk to Zack Snyder. I never cared if I got a chance to talk to Zack Snyder or not talk to Zack Snyder. It was never about that for me, and it never should have been about that for anybody either. But those people made it their whole online life. That's all they're about is Zack Snyder. That's all they're about is the Snyderverse. They think they own it. They gatekeep like they control everything. Oh, you want to talk to Zack Snyder? I seen somebody tweeting about it yesterday. Oh, well, if you want to talk to Zack Snyder, you have to either go through the Nerd Queens or TPZ. Why is that? Zack Snyder has an agent. I used to do a live internet radio program on psn-radio.com. It was called the ZodWriter Show. And when I used to acquire guests for my show, I talked to a lot of movie directors, actors, actresses. When I used to do that, I didn't have to go through any fan groups who were chasing clout to be able to talk to people. I got news for you guys. Zack Snyder has an agent. Okay, if I really want to talk to Zack Snyder and get him on my show, I know who I have to get in touch with. I know who I would have to speak to, and I wouldn't have to go through the Nerd Queens, and I wouldn't have to go through freaking TPZ. So when I see stuff like that on there was somebody, I guess there was a guy, he writes like articles for some kind of internet magazine or something. And he wanted to interview Zach. And somebody actually responded with that statement. Well, yeah, if you go through the Nerd Queens and you go through TPZ, you'll be able to I'm sure they can get you in touch with Zach. No, you know what you do? You go through, if you really want to get in touch with Zach and bypass all this quote unquote fandom bullshit, you want to bypass all this, you go on Google and you research and you find out who Zack Snyder's agent is, and you contact Zack Snyder's people and you say, hey, I'm writing an article for rollingstone.com and I'd like to interview Zack Snyder. You don't have to go through TPZ. You don't have to go through Mick D. You don't have to go through the Nerd Queens. It's laughable. It's laughable. They're like his spokespeople. That's what it seems like. That's what people make it out to be. People are so uninformed. It's like they don't know how to do anything. And it's like thinking that you got to actually go through these people and you got to kiss these people's butts to get something you want in association with Zack Snyder is absolutely ridiculous. It's been ridiculous for the longest time, and not enough people are speaking out about it. People are too busy chasing that clout. Oh, well, no, you know what, Zod, you can't come on my stream tonight because, I have the Nerd Queens on tonight, and I don't want the Nerd Queens to be offended by you because they don't agree with you. So I can't bring you on the stream, and I'm just trying to be fair to both sides. I have never said anything directly disrespectful to the Nerd Queens. Let's get that straight right here and now. I have been nothing but polite to the Nerd Queens. I supported their Justice Con. I was a part of Crisis on Infinite Earths that Nicotina came up, that big event that Nicotina came up with. They started hating me because I am aligned with people that they don't like. They don't agree with Mr. West Ashley. They don't like Will Rollins for some reason, even though if it wasn't for Will Rollins, we wouldn't have been able to have all those fundraisers we had back in the day, because Will Rollins was the man taking care of where all the funds were going. It's all just like high school clique BS. It's like, you don't like me because of who I'm associated with. Yesterday, I'm going to tell you something. I've been following, and I've been actually been friends with Chris Wong for years. Ever since this Snyder Cut movement thing started, I was friends with Chris Wong. Chris Wong and I were both interviewed by, multiple, publications and stuff back in the day. Chris Wong had been on my ZodWriter show several times. And just yesterday, out of the blue, Chris Wong unfollowed me on Twitter. But I'm going to tell you something about Chris Wong. I didn't unfollow Chris because I'm not like that. I looked at Chris and I thought to myself, well, you haven't even had a conversation with me in months. So why would you unfollow me? What did I say about you that you didn't like? I mean, I understand that you don't like the people that I associate with, because I don't associate. I like to surround myself with real people. I like to surround myself with people who tell it like it is. I support who I want to support. I support people from all sides of the movement. And you want to know why I support people on all sides? Do you want to know why I have a friendship with Poindexter Lounge? You want to know why I have a friendship with Dawson from Nerdy in Many Ways? Do you want to know why I absolutely love these people? Do you want to know? The reason why I have a friendship with these people is because my freaking life doesn't revolve, around the Snyderverse and the succubuses trying to get everything they can off of Zack Snyder's name. That's not what I'm about. I put out other content. I do other things. Dawson is a comic creator. He puts out all kinds of work. I totally support that kid. He's a great artist. He does a lot of things. He's a young dude. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Poindexter Lounge, he's very passionate about what he does. He goes off. He talks about a lot of things. He had the balls to admit in the beginning, that he wasn't really a fan at first, but then he came around to it like a lot of people did. I can respect people who are like that, who are honest, who have their positions, and who have friends on other sides of the spectrum. And that's okay. It's okay to have different friends. But I will tell you right now, the people that I associate with most to this day are people who feel exactly the way I do. Louis Centeno and I have a great friendship. We've been friends for years. Louis Centeno sent me a text the other day saying, Zod, I don't know what happened. Chris Wong unfollowed me. And when he told me that, I was like, oh, okay, well, let me check my Twitter and see if Chris Wong unfollowed me. And sure enough, he did. So I didn't feel so bad. I'm like, well, don't feel bad. He unfollowed me too. But listen, it's not about who unfollows you. It's not about who talks to you or who doesn't talk to you. It's about the reality that some people are never going to like you and are never going to respect you no matter what you do. Not everybody is going to be your friend. And like I said, that's why some feelings are being hurt today by what I'm saying, because I'm just saying the truth. I'm just saying it like it is. I'm not trying to crap on anybody. Even though I don't like certain people, I can respect what they've done. I can respect some of the positive things that they've done for the movement. And like I said, I never had anything personal against the Nerd Queens. My whole issue with the Nerd Queens came when the Nerd Queens started lumping me in with people that I was friends with who they didn't agree with. I don't like that. I'm not about that high school clique shit. I'm a grown man. I'm an adult. So for you to tell me, well, it's okay for you to be friends with these people over here, but it's not okay for you to be friends with these people over here if you want to stay friends with us. That's basically the message that I get from a lot of these people. The message, not literally the message, but the message that is given when you're unfollowed and blacklisted by a whole ton of people because of who you allegedly associate with. It's ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, I have a question to ask. What are all these people going to do who have lived their lives around Zack Snyder since the Snyder Cut movement and since the cut was announced and released and this whole fight for the Snyderverse? What are all these people going to do now that it's clear that Zack is moving on? It's clear, not that Zack is moving on, that Zack and Stone Quarry and Deborah have finally moved on from you people. What are you going to do now? What's your views going to be like? What's your content going to be like? What are you going to be talking about? What are you going to be? You're going to be eating each other now because you're not going to have nothing to talk about. So now there's going to be more enemies than ever in the movement because nobody's got nothing to talk about. Everybody's going to be in a panic because there's no new Zack stuff to talk about. At least no new DC Zack stuff to talk about. Oh no. Parademon, that's all good, Zod, but how's your week going? Oh, Parademon, my week is going great. My week is going great. It's been a good week so far. It started off a little bit goofy, but it's been a good week so far. It really has. The Truth 31 says, morning, Zod. Morning, Truth. Good to see you, man. And Rushton agrees with me, says exactly, Zod. Resident Justice says, hey, Truth. The Truth 31 says, hey, RJ. Batdan 530 says, well, how does Zack Snyder moving on to Netflix free him from TPZ and fandoms exactly? I'm going to tell you exactly how that happens. They are, okay, restore the Snyderverse. They are this fandom. Look at what they just did. Look at what they just did, Dan. They were so desperate that's why we had this whole motion comic debacle over the weekend, because they were desperate. The writing was on the wall. I don't know if they might have known, because they're all so quote unquote close to Zack, okay, that they already knew about the deal that he signed with Netflix right before it was announced by the Hollywood Reporter. Maybe they already knew. That's a possibility, and that's why there was all this hoopla over the motion comic, because you know what? The motion comic would have kept that particular part relevant. That part would have stayed relevant through that motion comic. And I'm not going to crap on the motion comic because, like I said, I was mostly in support of the idea. I just didn't want my friends that I know who were involved to get into trouble. I didn't want them to get in trouble, and I wanted them to do their diligence and do what they needed to do. And, the only thing I had issues with was the artist tracing and the whole thing, the way Lightcast just up and left everybody high and dry. I had issues with that. But again, that thing was just designed as a vehicle to keep certain people in prominence. And I know this for a fact because of the way Mick D from TPZ reacted when the project got shut down. Mick D is one of those guys that takes credit for everything good that happens in the Snyder Cut movement. This is a guy who feels like, in order to keep his relationship on the up and up with Zack Snyder, he has to constantly remind Zack Snyder of all the good that he personally has been responsible for in the Snyder Cut movement. In a lot of ways, TPZ is the worst thing that could have happened to the Snyder Cut movement. TPZ is literally, I like to call them, the toilet paper of the whole fandom. It's ridiculous. And the sooner that Zack could move on away from that, the better off he is. Because now he's off of Netflix doing his own projects, doing his own original work. TPZ isn't going to have anything to whisper in his ear about now because he's off making his own projects. It was one thing when he was still working on, DC properties and dealing with all the rigmarole over at Warner Brothers, but now he's free. He's as free as any filmmaker has ever been. This is the best thing he could do. He removes the shackles of the Snyderverse from his body and is free to do what he wants to do. It's got to be a sigh of relief. It's got to be a beautiful thing. And the best part is now he can distance himself from the fandom and just concentrate on his work. And Oh My Diaz says, dang. Darkstar, TPZ stands for totally pro Zack. Resident Justice says, I think the Nerd Queens will be fine. They'll keep doing Justice Con and having their platforms. RJ, you just said it. Justice Con. What Justice Con? There's no more Snyderverse. Justice Con was predicated, has always been predicated on the Snyderverse, has been predicated on more Zack Snyder DC material. When the Nerd Queens do content that doesn't have to do with the Snyderverse, people don't really watch their stuff. Why is that? If you're going to build a brand, you have to build your brand based off of other things. You have to be diverse. RJ, you're a very diverse guy. You like all sorts of different things. You're the kind of person that I gravitate to because I'm like that too. I like all sorts of things. I focus on all sorts of things. For months now, I've been kind of distancing myself from this whole Snyderverse thing. I don't talk about the Snyderverse as much as I used to. The reason why you have to build your brand based on other things. You have to have other things to talk about other than the Snyderverse. Because if the only thing that you have going for you is the Snyderverse, well, now you're dead in the water because this deal de facto ends all of that, at least for the foreseeable future, unless again, somehow Netflix acquires DC. So I don't, again, I question how. And again, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's been going on lately has been desperate attempts for these people to hold on because they know they're losing their grip. You're losing your grip now because you don't have anything else to talk about but the Snyderverse. Who's going to care? You're interviewing. How many times? And this is just a question I have generally for the whole chat, for all 26 people of you that are in here right now. How many people are fans of other things besides the Snyderverse? That's the big question. How many people are fans of other things besides the Snyderverse? If you're fans of other things and you have other things in your life to talk about, other things to do live streams about and YouTube videos about and to vlog about and to write about, you're going to be okay. But what else do they have to talk about? How many times can you see the same people interviewing Zack Snyder over and over again before it becomes not a big deal anymore? The first time the Nerd Queens had Zack Snyder on Justice Con, it was a big deal, right? It was huge because it was the first time, and it was Zack interacting with fans. It was a big deal. But now it's not really a big deal, because how many times are you going to see Zack Snyder pop up on Dave the Film Junkie's vodka stream? How many times are you going to see Zack interacting with the same people while ignoring everybody else? This is what happens when you have small groups that think they can control everything, that try to be the conduit between filmmakers and other fans, when all they are is simply fans themselves. Chubby Teddy Master says, I just want Zack and Debbie to be happy. Me too. And I hope that everybody feels that way, including Nerd Queens and TPZ. Marcus Cruz says, the truth, yo, what's up? Resident Justice says, all that matters is that Zack and Deborah are happier with where they are at as creatives. I agree. I couldn't agree more. That is like the greatest statement. I agree so much. Hey, Marcus. Chubby Teddy Master says, you're all right, Zod. That needed to be said. Oh, my Dia says, cool. I'm passionate, but I want the clout. Prime says, link me if you're having panel guests. Now, yeah, Prime, I don't do panel guests when I do live from the couch. Live from the couch is just me giving my opinion about stuff and interacting with the chat. But if I was going to do a panel, I would bring some people on, but I'm not doing a panel. I don't have time to do a panel right now. I'm just going through some stuff. I got some other stuff I got to do today, so I wanted to get this out, early in the morning. The Truth 31 is saying, is this a morning rant or a celebration? It's a celebration and a morning rant, brother. Are you kidding me? It's a celebration and a morning rant. You could take everything that I said and throw it out the window, because the bottom line is, I'm happy for Zack. I'm happy for Deborah, and I'm happy for Stone Quarry, and I'm happy for Netflix. This is great. This is a wonderful thing, and this is something that we should all be happy about. Parademon 44 says, is Zod really giving a recap? Some of you need to catch up on past episodes of Dragon Ball Snyder Cut. I agree, Parademon 44, because that's what it feels like. Dragon Ball Snyder Cut. Katsuka, both for Zod. Both Truth. Yeah, it was a morning rant and a commentary on all of this. And yeah, I'm done ranting. And like I said, I mean, don't mistake me being critical for me being disrespectful, because this is well deserved. These people have put themselves in this light by so many people, and so many people are afraid to speak out, are afraid to say what what the truth is, because everybody has their truth, and you should be able to speak your truth without fear of retribution from goofy fan cliques. Doesn't make any sense. I don't expect everybody to like me, and I know that these people don't like me, and I know they'll like me even less if they watch this, but that's just the reality of the situation, and I'm not going to hold my tongue anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. Marcus Cruz says there needs to be fireworks for this kind of celebration. Oh, I agree. Fireworks would be great. Zack Snyder is going to dominate in Netflix. He absolutely is. Thank you for saying that. That is very true. Vegeta just became a god of destruction. Film Gob puts it aptly here. TPZ are the Yoko Ono. I agree. Bad Dan says, ZodWriter, are you still on board for release the air cut? I am. I'm always going to be on board for anything related to the Snyderverse, but Bad Dan, I got to be honest with you, and I got to be honest with myself. I don't think we're going to get the air cut. I just don't. I think we've reached that point. I think Zack signing this deal, and I know Zack is not David Ayer, but you have to realize, the implications for the company, moving forward. They don't want nothing to do with Zack. They don't want nothing to do with the Snyderverse. They were willing to let Zack go and sign this deal with Netflix. So obviously, the hatred that they have for him is real. The hatred is legit. So I wouldn't hold my breath that we're going to get the Ayer cut either. Fatal J! Oh my Diaz, Eddie says the Snyderverse is over. Netflix is going to keep him working. Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing, Eddie. How much time do these people think that Zack Snyder is going to have? Do people really think that Zack Snyder is going to have has like more than, how much time do you have? As a filmmaker, you only have so much time, and you have a life of your own you have to live, right? Zack is also, a devoted father and a husband, and he has all kinds of other responsibilities and things, right? So what you think it's just the man is just going to somehow magically, I mean, if he was like Dr. Manhattan and he could literally, put himself in multiple places at once, it might be possible. But at this point, yeah, Netflix is going to keep him working. Netflix wanted Zack Snyder to have that exclusive deal for a reason. Netflix plans to get every penny out of it. Netflix is going to have Zack Snyder busy as heck for as long as possible. I mean, it's going to be amazing. Resident Justice says, hey, Film Gob. Oh, my dear says WB would never do that. No. I highly doubt Netflix will buy DC. Perhaps Zaslav will license out the Snyderverse for Netflix to do like the Sweet Tooth or Sandman. Yeah, well, that's what it would essentially be. It would be Zaslav licensing, like you said, licensing off bits and pieces, fragments for them to use. And given that they have such a great working relationship with Zack Snyder, that would be the most logical sense for Netflix to come to Zaslav and say, hey, can we license the Snyderverse from you to use it like its own separate black label kind of thing? I could see something like that. That might actually be able to happen. But again, that's the only that also falls in to the category of Netflix buying DC. The likelihood of either one of those things happening is very, very slim. But if it were to happen, then the Snyderverse could continue. Now that this is done, some YouTubers are making dumb videos on how Hamadaverse movies is connected to the Snyderverse. Oh yeah, they'll figure out ways to spin it, and I guarantee you, some of the people that I mentioned earlier are going to be making their content talking about Suicide Squad and the Batman. They're going to be on board. These people are going to be on board with the Hamadaverse because they don't have anywhere else to go. Oh, my Diaz says, hell no, because HBO Max is a thing. It wouldn't make sense for WB to let Netflix take over. Yeah, Eddie. Again, that's why I say it's very, very slim. There's for it to happen, a lot of stars would have to align. And unfortunately, it's just not realistic. Koopy Malik says, hello, Zod, and hello, all. They are connected. It's called the DCEU. Truly here for Zach. Oh my God, you sneaky cheeky bugger. Resident Justice, why do you think the nerd queens are clout chasers? Are there specific people you have issue with? I'm not knowledgeable on fandom drama, but even my own friends have defended the nerd queens. Of course, a lot of your friends have defended the nerd queens, Resident Justice. They don't know the behind the scenes drama because they weren't involved. They don't know because they were not a part of the groups that the nerd queens shunned and pushed aside in favor of them getting their positions that they've gotten now. Listen, I've got nothing personal against the nerd queens. I don't have a personal beef against them. I think they're nice people, whatever. But their tactics and the things that they have done in the movement are things that it would take a whole other stream, RJ, for me to get into specific examples and specific things that have happened. Believe me, you don't want me to go there. You don't want me to open those can of worms. Because if you like the Nerd Queens and the people that you're talking about love the Nerd Queens, we'll just keep it that way. It's better for everybody if we just keep it that way, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to bust out the Nerd Queens on this stream. I could, but I'm not going to do that, because it's not cool. I don't want to be dishonorable. Suffice it to say, okay, I just feel like, when, people like that talk about accountability over entertainment, it's a little hypocritical. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry, RJ, but it's just not the time. And I'm not really interested in dredging that up, because if I start dredging stuff up, there's going to be some really, really, really hurt feelings. And I just don't want to go there, because like I said, the Nerd Queens outside of this whole thing may be lovely people. And like I said, I don't have any issues. I never had any issues with them per se. And the ironic part was, I caught myself on several occasions defending them too. I would defend them. I would jump to their defense, and I would say this, and this about them positively too, until I learned the truth about what happened. And the reality is, I didn't learn the truth until after they decided that I was somebody that needed to be blacklisted too, because I was friends with people they didn't like. So it's cool, RJ. I'm not going to make a judgment. I know Enosh is good friends with the Nerd Queens. I know a lot of people that are, super friends with the Nerd Queens and all that. So I'm not here to trash the Nerd Queens. I'm not going to talk about, them personally. I'm not going to do that. I'm just speaking from my perspective, and honestly, and from some of the surface level stuff from the movement. But I don't want to go, deep into that can of worms. That's too much. Y'all ain't ready for that. Let me just stop there. Dark Star says, if the Snyderverse is over, that doesn't mean I'm gonna stop supporting Zack Snyder. I love his movies, and I can't wait to see what he does with his new project at Netflix. Exactly. The great part about this is, those of us that are true Zack Snyder fans are going to continue to support Zack no matter what. And we're gonna love every bit of his movies. And the best part is, DC is going to continue to be whack. Karma is a B. That's all I'm gonna say. Koopy Malik says, I'm waiting for Zack Snyder to combine projects with Jay Oliva, The Twilight of the Gods. Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. Truth 31 says, more movies with big tits, sweaty muscles, and philosophy. Let's go, and owls. Yes. Saying they're good people and ultimately do not control who Zack wants to talk to, with them saying that Zack chooses who he wants to talk to. RJ, the point I was making about that was that they are the people that people always defer to whenever somebody wants to talk to Zack Snyder. Whenever somebody wants to talk to Zack Snyder, there's two names that come up: Nerd Queens and TPZ. It's disingenuous and it makes no sense. They are not Zack Snyder's spokespeople. As much as they would like to be, they are not. And it's absolutely ridiculous that anybody would think that they would have to go through them if they really wanted to talk to Zack Snyder. I can tell you right now, okay, and that's why I said earlier, if I really wanted to talk to Zack Snyder, if I really wanted to get Zack Snyder on the ZodWriter show and have a discussion with him, I could do it, because I know who to go through. And it's not the Nerd Queens, it's not Lightcast, and it's not TPZ. Enough said. Oh my Diaz says, I support these movies. I'm a DC fan first. Not going to apologize for it. Not a problem being a DC fan, Eddie. You can support whatever the hell you want to support. Zod speaking facts on the Snyderverse. Zod, We're even people in the chat who want to stand whack DC movies and tell fans to do the same. Not all of them, Zod. I'm hoping the Snyderverse will continue one day. Either it happens or not. Time will tell. I don't care about the Hamadaverse, the Fart Queens. Warner Brothers doesn't deserve Zack Snyder. For me, I've mentally and emotionally moved on from the Restore the Snyderverse stuff. The fandom is a toxic wasteland of egotistical asshats where good people are being allowed, being shoved to the side. It really has become just exactly that, RJ. It's become exactly that, where there's good people that could literally be doing more to help the Snyderverse movement, to help things along. And unfortunately, because of certain people, a lot of people have gotten turned off. A lot of people have decided that they don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. And again, that's why I'm so happy about that. Was my whole reason for this video. I'm so happy that Zack is finally moving on. Make no mistake, this deal with Netflix is Zack moving on. It doesn't get any clearer. I don't care what people say now. Oh, but Zack still wants the Snyderverse. Yeah, Zack has moved on. He has. This is a moving on maneuver. Why should Zack Snyder sit there and sit there juggling, waiting for a phone call from toxic WB? It just doesn't make sense. He's too talented of a filmmaker to wait around. I read an article yesterday that said that Henry Cavill's been in talks with Marvel. I don't blame him. If Marvel can acquire Henry Cavill for a role, that would be a massive coup. Good on Marvel if they do that. It's what DC under the current WB regime deserves. They deserve all their good people to jump ship and go over to Netflix and Marvel. The Snyderverse is going to get restored any day now. Where have I heard that? Oh, yeah. Truth. You've been speaking on this forever, right? You've been pointing out all this hypocrisy for all this time, like all these, clickbait videos. The Snyderverse is getting restored. The Snyderverse has been restored, confirmed. Really? Who confirmed it? I think Zack Snyder just debunked everybody's theories by signing this Netflix deal. What's up, Hamad? So good to see you, man. Resident Justice says, I'm going to look forward to what Zack does on Netflix. Oh, me too, RJ. I can honestly say at this point, I could care less what Warner Brothers and DC does as a studio. I don't care. I'm happy because now people are free to enjoy their whack DC movies. Go ahead. Support James Gunn all you like now. Support Robert Pattinson's Whackman. Support that. Support the whatever that you're gonna do. They're doing a Batgirl series on HBO Max and a Blue Beetle movie or something. They're doing a bunch of stuff. Support it all. Go ahead. Eat those Hamada burgers, because here's the reality of the situation. DC is never going to get better as long as the people that screwed all those content creators are still in charge. So as long as Emmerich and Hamada are still there, there's no hope for DC. Oh, my Diaz is laughing. The truth. Trust me, bro. Oh yeah, Wars dude. Trust me, bro. Yeah. What's our favorite line of all time? Truth 31. $200 super chat. Thanks, bro. Yeah. Say fractured but whole really fast. He's not the only one, Marcus Cruz. Hey, Katsuka. My only hope is the aftermath of the merger. Hamad, my hope with the aftermath of the merger is that, like RJ was saying earlier, that maybe Zaslav will license off the Snyderverse to Netflix. That's the best thing we can hope for, because Netflix is Zack's home now. It's Zack Snyder's home base. If I were Zack, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near WB. If I were Zack, I'd be elated that I don't even have to go there anymore. I don't have to talk to any of these creepy fan people. I could just be a creative again, man. I mean, Zack, I don't see how Zack can, like, I mean, it's like, well, you know, no, Zod, you're wrong. The Snyderverse is going to get restored. See, Zod, this is what's going to happen. Let me break it down for you. The Snyderverse is getting restored because there's a lot of factors going on behind the scenes that you don't know about right now. Right now, Zack Snyder is in talks with Zaslav, and Zaslav has basically said, Zack, we want you to come back. We want you to finish the Snyderverse. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you your own sub-label in DC. We're going to give you the Snyderverse. It's going to be like, you know, like the DC Black Label that they created for Joker. We're going to give that to you, and you're going to be able to come in and you're going to be able to just do your offshoot Snyderverse movies like its own separate brand. And that's what we want to do, because when we come in, we're gonna make it all about you. We're gonna build DC around you. That's what some people would have you believe. But this deal that Zack signed makes that a moot point, because Zack's not going back to Warner Brothers. He's not. Netflix is going to have Zack so sewn up with all the movies that he's going to be doing that, like I said, unless Zaslav somehow leases the Snyderverse over to Netflix, DC leases it to Netflix, how is it going to happen? I hope that Netflix has Zack so busy with so many projects that even if WB calls him, he wouldn't be able to go back if he wanted to, because that's what they get for being toxic, being evil, and being completely disrespectful. Warner Brothers will realize this when none of their other future projects come out do as well as the Snyderverse movies. And when I say do as well, I'm not just talking about people watching, but I'm talking about word of mouth. Because say what you want about this James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, but the same thing that happened with James Gunn Suicide Squad is going to happen. The same thing that happened with Wonder Woman 84 is going to happen with James Gunn Suicide Squad. And all these simps were all, but Zack Snyder is an executive producer on Wonder Woman 84, so we need to support it, because if we don't support it, it's like we're not supporting Zack. BS. Zack got paid for that executive producer credit. That's all it was. So us watching the movie it's not supporting Zack one way or the other. He already got paid for that executive producer credit. That executive producer credit is a name-only credit, okay? Zack didn't do anything for Wonder Woman 84. Just like Zack didn't do anything on the Suicide Squad. Christopher Nolan didn't do anything on Justice League, but Christopher Nolan had an executive producer credit on Justice League. Huh? Katsuka says, hey, Koopy Malik. Excited for Rebel Moon. Zack will definitely make a visually amazing space adventure. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's going to be marvelous. Marvelous. Oh, it's just going to be so great. I swear to God. It's like I'm like a kid at Christmas. After this announcement, I was like, oh, yes. Oh, yes. We can finally get all this stress off of our chest. We can finally finally breathe again and stop talking about something that probably is never going to happen. Fatal J says Netflix did it with Marvel, like Daredevil, like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Netflix would have to buy DC Entertainment as a whole, not just DC Films. Warner Media will never sell that golden goose. Well, but how much of a golden goose is it actually when you think about it? They've been losing money on DC projects. Okay? That's something that nobody talks about. They've been losing money. Wonder Woman 84 lost money. Birds of Prey lost money. Yeah, okay. Rebel Moon is going to be fire. Hope Gina Carano gets cast. Fatal J, I think the difference is that the studios don't want to do that kind of thing again because they want their own properties for their own streaming services. Don't help the camp. Yeah, RJ, I think you're right. See, Netflix doesn't need DC to be successful. Okay? Netflix was smart enough to acquire the guy who brought us the best DC movies. So you don't need DC. You could just bring that guy in and let him do what he does best, which is make good movies. And now he's going to make all these original properties for you. You're exactly right, RJ. What do you need DC when you can make your own properties, make your own household names, build your own brands? Yeah. That's what I'm saying about a lot of these people, a lot of these YouTubers and people that have basically made a career, have been fed and have ate well off of the Snyderverse. What are they going to do now? The Truth 31, yeah, all of these YouTubers and their sources. RJ says, why license out the Snyderverse to Netflix? Netflix can do DC better than what they're trying to sell people for your own movies and platform. ZodWriter, so if Black Adam is connected to the Snyderverse, does that mean Shazam is in the Snyderverse? I don't know, Batman. I have no idea. I'm not even going to speculate. I don't know what DC is doing. The only reason why I say Black Adam is likely in the Snyderverse, or at least loosely connected to the Snyderverse, is because The Rock and Henry Cavill have the same agent, and The Rock wants to work with Henry Cavill's Superman. That's all. Resident Justice says, I think Shazam 2, Black Adam, and the Batman will be good. Parademon 44 says DC is trash from top to bottom. That's why there's so many people using it's in comics to excuse the ass juice levels. Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah, all the people defending James Gunn. Oh, but Zod, James Gunn, that Superman getting shot with a kryptonite bullet. It's comic book accurate. Yeah, it's comic book accurate till you see how James Gunn is actually gonna do it in the movie. When you actually see the buffoonery that James Gunn is going to give you in this movie, you're going to be sitting there thinking, yeah, it may have been a comic book accurate plot point, but it's not going to be comic book accurate in terms of the way it was executed on screen. Parademon 44, these DC shills today, can't wait for them Jeff Johns DC sequels. If James Gunn don't treat David Ayer poorly with his recent tweets, I would be fine, but I'm getting even more curious to see David Ayer's real vision. Yeah, people just completely give James Gunn a pass, and every time you bring up the shady behavior of James Gunn, you get a bunch of people who say things like, well, James Gunn, you shouldn't blame James Gunn because DC is treating James Gunn better. James Gunn came from Marvel. James Gunn's a good guy. We should all support James Gunn. We should support James Gunn. James Gunn this, James Gunn that. Right. Everybody's on the James Gunn bandwagon because it's the next DC movie coming out. ZodWriter, the problem now is the fandom is so big and the path to the restore of the Snyderverse isn't clear, and it got too big. It got too big with clout chasers involved in the movement. Oh, I agree 100%. Batman, you're speaking truth right now. Parademon 44, what's wrong with that? It's DC stuff. They love that CW shit too. People out to capping Superman and Lois after a decade of trash CW shows. Yeah. I'm praying this merger will be a blessing for us. I don't think it will be. I'm going to be honest with you. Like the stuff that Batman and 44 are pointing out, I don't think it is, because the thing is, people are supporting this stuff, and I keep saying that if this stuff is a hit, this James Gunn Suicide Squad and these other whack DC movies that are coming out, Zaslav is going to look at that, and Hamada and Emmerich will be rewarded. They'll be able to keep their positions, and you'll continue to get a bunch of whack DC movies. Plus, the caveat is Zack Snyder is over at Netflix now. That's his home base. So now you have an even bigger problem, because even if you want Zack to come back and do WB movies, he's not going to be available because he's busy at Netflix. And like RJ was pointing out, the idea of leasing DC or the Snyderverse as a brand over to Netflix is probably the only way that it would happen. That's not likely, because they would have to buy DC outright. And at that point, they're probably not, at least not anytime in the near future, they aren't going to be selling DC. I'll tell you when. I got a hot take for y'all right now. I'll tell you when Zaslav will give Netflix DC to do what they want with the Snyderverse. After Kevin Feige makes his Marvel versus DC movie. Parademon 44 says, and that's why y'all continue to get whack movies and comics, and the fan community will continue to crumble. DC fans have accepted mediocrity. Amen. Amen, 44. Man, hashtag Watchmen. Yes, for real. There you go. Crazy, man. 100% right. Aquaman. Arkham Gaming. Why Netflix? Why not Amazon? I think the Snyderverse will be restored. We have to see what the new guy in charge will do, but I don't see them selling DC. I give it a 5% chance if they sell it. Why Netflix? Because Zack Snyder signed an exclusive deal with Netflix. That's why Netflix. Parademon 44. So it's wrong to be excited for DC stuff that isn't Snyder. See, this is the attitude right here, Marcus. That's the problem. It's not wrong to be excited for DC stuff that isn't Snyder. It's wrong to be excited for DC stuff that's being put out by the same people who screwed Snyder. That's the difference. That's the problem. People are not grasping. It's okay to support DC movies that aren't Snyder, right? But when you have the same people in charge who screwed over Zack Snyder, who screwed over David Ayer, who gave hell to Pony Smasher, who made life a living hell for Todd Phillips, who continue to do filmmakers dirty, that's where the problem is. When they clean house, if they clean house, they get rid of Emmerich, they get rid of Hamada, they get rid of all the people involved that caused all the drama in the first place, then it'll be okay to be excited for other DC projects, because you'll have new people in there and you'll have different things and you can have hope for other properties and stuff. But being excited for all of this stuff is counterproductive, because these are the same people who screwed Zack in the first place. Do you guys understand now? It's not that it's wrong or bad to be excited about DC projects, okay? But the people in charge are the same people that did Zack dirty, and I can't say it any other way. So that means by supporting these new films, you're supporting those people. And that means you want those people to remain in charge and to continue putting out mediocre DC films. That's what it is. Resident Justice says people hedging their bets on Zaslav and Discovery saving the day and saving the Snyderverse will be in for a rude awakening next summer when the merger will supposedly be complete. Yeah, I don't think that the merger is going to do anything now that Zack is going over to Netflix. Again, now you have that to factor in. You have the fact that Zack went over to Netflix. If Zack went over to Netflix, he's not available. He's not going to be available for this BS that Zaslav is going to want to do later on. I think you guys got to come to grips with the possibility that the Snyderverse may be over. And I'm just saying that just based off of the evidence that we have now. You can't keep believing in something that is getting further and further out of reach by the day. It just doesn't make sense. And why anybody would want Zack to go back to that toxic work environment to begin with is ridiculous to me. Kupi Malik says, I can see what Zaslav will do in these coming months. The possibility is there, so I'm hoping, like I said before, after either it happens or it doesn't. Time will tell. Parademon 44, the Batman will not be mediocre, probably better than Batfleck already. Yeah, well, again, that's your thoughts on it. But here's a little bit of a tidbit, Marcus Cruz. The rumor is that the production on that movie was very, very troubled, and there's a lot of issues. So if it ends up being, again, though, if it ends up being better, if you think it's going to be better than Batfleck, more power to you. But I'm just saying, by supporting this next crop of films, just remember you're supporting the people that screwed over Zack in the first place, and you're endorsing continued mediocrity. Because if Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84 are anything to go by, okay? If those movies are anything to go by, we can't expect much better to come from these next crop of movies, because these next crop of movies all came when they got rid of Zack Snyder. KP says the biggest middle finger would be if WB produces Justice League 2 and 3 with JW as director, thus allowing him to complete his trilogy. Zack Snyder is taking so many dubs this year. Zack Snyder's deal with Netflix is opening the door to more possibilities. Manny V says, how does it get Zack away from the people you're referring to, Zod? He'll just go on their channels again for an Army of the Dead 2 promo. Not necessarily. I think what you got to realize, Manny, is that the whole thing, the whole reason, these people were not Zack Snyder fans to begin with. They weren't. They jumped on the bandwagon, in the early days of the movement. They jumped on the bandwagon. They weren't Zack Snyder fans. Listen, they didn't have much to talk about with the whole Army of the Dead thing. They did what they could do, and I give them props for their Justice Cons. But the reality is that now you don't have nothing to talk about. Zack is doing other projects, okay? And we don't know what those other projects, how those other projects are going to turn out or whatever, but he's going to be entirely too busy, and he's going to have so much going on. I don't really think he'll be doing the kind of fan tours that he was doing prior. I just don't see it. I think this Netflix thing is the path to him kind of distancing himself. The ones who touted to cut off the gatekeeping became the gatekeepers. If the Netflix deal destroys that and gets back to democratize the fandoms, then hell yeah. Parademon says, no, it's wrong to be hyped for films you know are going to be watered down, whack, and won't continue the story set up in Man of Steel. Uh, Birds of Prey, Aquaman, Wonder Woman 84, Justice are trash. Flash, and Suicide Squad look trash too. Manny V will hopefully he will kind of distance himself from more from them. Parademon 44, I get, but what the casual fans of DC who are not a fan of Snyder. It's not about whether you're a fan of Snyder or not. It's about how this studio continues to do their filmmakers dirty. They'll do that to Zack. They'll do that to other filmmakers. It's not just about Zack Snyder. Don't forget about David Ayer, right? David Ayer has a whole movie we haven't seen. And all you people who are hyped for Hamadaverse need to go somewhere. You'll be all up in Snyderverse fan spaces bitching why nobody likes the new DC movies. Get to the Jeff Johns forum. Koopy Malik, who exactly are these people? Jeff Johns the Snake. I'm happy with what we got. Now we finally get to see Zack unleashed and happy. Exactly. But let's be honest. You're around us because you know Snyderverse fans run DC films. Fan community right now, we're the ones keeping the conversations and the community alive. Facts. I agree. I agree with Parademon on that. Looks like StreamYard has skipped a bunch of comments, so I do apologize. Like I said, I wanted to get through all of them, but I was kind of behind. It looks like they skipped a few. Morning, everyone. Smash that like button. Thanks, Rhea. Good to see you here. Resident Justice says hi, Rhea. Koopy Malik says Rhea. Sup, Rhea. Resident Justice says Lightcast effed up. Morning, Rhea. There's too much infighting and fracturing in the fandom. It feels like high school drama. It totally does. Straight up facts, TPZ has started all the BS. Prime says, hey, people, still delusional. So everybody knows when Army of Thieves is coming out. Fall 2022, Koopy Malik. All right, I'm out. Have a good day, all. Hey, ZodWriter. Batdan says, but I'm concerned that some of these fans will switch over to focusing on bothering him about the Netflix zombie Snyderverse. Parademon says, peace, Abu. Yes, peace, Abu. Resident Justice, damn, next year, but that's a long way away. Yes, I can feel your anger. Embrace the dark side of the Force. Have a good day, Abu. Everybody loves the Mr. President, Abu Nas. Yes. What I meant about the Justice Con comment, Zod, is that Justice Con could just evolve into being about Snyder's Netflix stuff. Yeah, it could, but I mean, the truth is, they built everything on the Snyderverse. They built everything on the Snyderverse and on the Snyder Cut. I don't know if they'd be able to sustain something like that just based off of Zack's new projects. I just don't know if they could do it because I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, but I kind of feel like, if I was Zack, I would use this as a get out of jail free card. I originally first saw Zod talking about new Star Wars and he didn't have too much good to say. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm a fan of way more than just the Snyderverse. Exactly, RJ. That's what I'm saying, dude. Well, I am. I got plenty to talk about other than Snyder. Exactly. I like Carmen Sandiego. Yeah, pow pow. I'm a hardcore cinema enthusiast, so DC Snyder isn't my only focus or priority. Exactly, and that's the good thing. A lot of people are like that and are like me, that are very diverse and cultured when it comes to their taste in films and directors and things. So we're gonna all be fine. It's not those of us that are those of us that have, interests outside of the Snyderverse and DC are going to be just fine. It's the people that have spent all their time talking about the Snyderverse, and that's the only thing that they care about, that they're making their bread and butter on, and they're not going to have nowhere else to go. Parademon 44, the one from the game. She had a game. I got plenty of awesome stuff coming out of the MCU. I got plenty of video games to play and discuss. A new amazing Dune trailer last night in Soho soon, etc. We don't want to hear Prime's BS about the Snyderverse being dead. Snyderverse is dead. Get out of emotions and use common sense. However, you're entitled. I'm all about logic. Prime, my logic says keep hope, but accept the outcome. Common sense says there is a reason the article says the Snyders are still open to established comic properties. Snyderverse dies when Zack Snyder dies, and the man is still young. Exactly. I'm with 44. Now the Ayer cut has a huge possibility of being released. Why? It's already filmed. Snyderverse dies if Zack said, sorry, it's over. Oh my God. Zod is so far behind on the chat. Oh yeah, I've been behind on the chat because I like to read everybody's comments. That's why I'm behind, Katsuka. Prime, we don't need your negativity. Donner fans wouldn't shut up about Superman 78 till Donner died, so we're keeping that same energy. Breaking news: Legendary is looking to explore a partial sale or merger to another company, another L for Warner Brothers. Exactly. The L's just keep coming for Warner Brothers. Parademon 44 says, oh shit, it's not an exclusive deal. Zack Snyder is about filmmaking and making sure his team eats. With the new deal, he's achieving that. Done deal. Parademon 44, we can like both versions of Superman. Thanks for the news drop. It's a first look deal. Yeah, it is. It's a first look deal. It's a first look deal. It's a first look deal. But what you have to remember is Zack had a first look deal with WB and never went anywhere else or did any other films. That's what I've been saying. The first look deal is when you have a first look deal and they really like you, they're going to want to do all your projects. Again, I'm just saying, man, I think that if it does happen, if we do get more in the Snyderverse, it's going to be because there's some sort of deal worked out with Netflix. That's all I'm saying. Who said I didn't? LOL. From what WB's done to Legendary, I'm not surprised. So the MonsterVerse is dead. Is dead? Is that it? Not necessarily. So no Gamera versus Godzilla then. But imagine if Snyder fans are around saying Donner versus dead, Burton versus dead, Nolan versus dead, Tim versus dead. Hypocrisy. Just unsubscribed from Chris Wong's channel. Not cool to kiss the ring, Nerd Queens and Gatekeepers, so he can have access to Zack and others. I didn't expect that from Chris. Well, Chris has been that way for a long time. What? Marcus Cruz? Don't know. Time will tell. I'd like to get to more of your comments, but I gotta go, guys. I'm running a little bit late now. I got some things I gotta go back in. I gotta get back into now. But this was a fun chat. You said a lot of stuff. Katsuka says pow pow. Louis Centeno says, what's up, Zod? Parademon 44 says, this was a good show. I might be back. And baby girl says, have a good day, Zod. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here with me today. This was a lot of fun. I will talk to you all later.